The Roman historian Titus Livius is one of the few ancient historians who is often relied on by the present-day Greek propaganda and pro-Greek authors to prove the supposed Greek ethnic identity of the ancient Macedonians. But the facts speak something entirely different. Let's see what this is about. In one extract of his work History of Rome, Book 31, Chapter 29, Livius wrote that the Aetolians, the Acarnanians, and the Macedonians were, quote, nations with the same language. Because the Aetolians and the Acarnanians were Greek, nations that lived on the territory of present-day Greece, that meant the Macedonians were Greek as well. Well, let's respond to these remarks. Titus Livius lived from the year 59 BC until the year 14 AD. He, as a Roman, wrote this sentence in response to the negotiations between the Balkan peoples and Rome, which occurred during the Roman invasion of the Balkan Peninsula, 2nd century BC. This means that he wrote about an event that happened nearly a century and a half before he was born. For this claim, two explanations are possible. The first explanation involves Livy himself, who explains that in this time the Macedonians were partially Hellenized, which means that they were not Hellenic, but a part of them accepted segments of the Hellenic culture, just as well as the Greeks took parts from the Macedonian culture, which is completely normal between two neighboring nations. However, despite all this, Livius very clearly separates the Macedonians from the Greeks. In the same book, while writing about the hatred the Greek Athenians had towards the Macedonians from the time of the Macedonian king Philip V, and their desire, with help from Rome, to get rid of the Macedonian slavery, Livius writes,
"The people of Athens and their allies, their armies and fleets, should so often curse and execrate Philip, his children and his kingdom, his military and naval forces, and the whole race and name of the Macedonians."
This testimony is much stronger than the testimony for the similarity of the language between the Macedonians, the Acarnanians, and the Aetolians, because here he points out the ethnic, racial differences between the Macedonians and the Greeks, unlike their language, which can be very changeable. The second explanation also has serious arguments. There are many controversial opinions regarding the origins of the Acarnanians. Strabo considers them a Greek tribe. However, Aeschines, Theopompus, and Pausanias don't mention them as Hellenes in the Amphictyonic Council, which was a community of the Greek tribes at the time. It seems that Thucydides most correctly presents the ethnic origin of the Acarnanians. He claims that the Acarnanians, especially those from the city Argos, were a mix of Hellenes and barbarians, people who didn't speak Greek. There are stances that indicate that the Acarnanians had a Thracian origin. For example, the author Cornelius Nepos wrote that Themistocles' mother was Acarnanian, and Plutarch, in his biography of Themistocles, wrote that she was Thracian. The case of the Aetolians is the same as well. There are ancient testimonies that claim that they spoke a different language to the Greeks, which means that they were not Greeks. The famous ancient historian Polybius presents a statement which was given by the Macedonian king Philip V himself, in which he said that, quote, "Most of the Aetolians themselves are not Greeks." All of this could mean that Titus Livius might be correct in saying that the Aetolians, the Acarnanians, and the Macedonians were nations with the same language. But what the present-day Greek propagandists forgot to say is that there are serious ancient testimonies that neither of these nations were Greek. Zosimus was a Byzantine ancient historian who lived in Constantinople during the reign of the Byzantine king Anastasius in 5th and 6th century. He is the author of the book Historia Nova, which consists of 6 books. In the first book of Historia Nova, while describing the expansion of the Roman Empire, Zosimus writes,
And being still desirous to enlarge their empire, they crossed the Ionian Sea, conquered Greece, and ruined the Macedonians, whose king they carried to Rome in chains.
So, it's quite clear that Zosimus treated the Macedonians separately from the Greeks, who were under Macedonian slavery before they were conquered by the Romans.